No collusion. And we learned earlier today there will not be a report next week. Maybe someone actually figured out that an extremely important summit about world peace, about the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, is actually taking place in Vietnam next week. Not a good time. What we, by the way, will be reporting from Vietnam all next week. Well, more of that in a minute. But first, we turn to our top story out of Chicago once again. Embattled Empire actor Jussie Smollett. He is Jussie Smollett's lawyers. They are correct. He must be assumed innocent. Presumption of innocence before being proven guilty. With that said, the evidence against him as presented by the Chicago police yesterday and others is now overwhelming and, frankly, beginning to border on incontrovertible. And according to prosecutors, Smollett paid these two brothers thousands of dollars to stage a homophobic, racist assault against the actor on the streets of Chicago using a noose, bleach, all while wearing red MAGA hats, Make America Great Again hats, and ski masks. Both of those individuals have been testifying both before the grand jury and to the police against Smollett. And as you can see right there, that video, evidence shows that pair buying the items used allegedly in the assault. Surveillance also shows the brothers' arrival at the scene of the incident. Phone records indicate Smollett called the brothers both before and right after the staged attack, and text exchanges spell out how Smollett solicited their help. And perhaps the most damning and most puzzling piece of evidence, he paid the accomplices with a check, kind of AKA Jerry Springer. Now, naturally, the spin has already started. Smollett allegedly is trying to tell the police he had an untreated drug problem. Texts indicate that, in fact, the actor may have purchased the party drug known as Molly or ecstasy from one of the brothers involved in this hoax. So is he saying the drugs made him do it, but he didn't do it? Well, except ecstasy or Molly has never been known to cause any hate crime hoax. And meanwhile, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, they're toting a brand new conspiracy. Maybe the Chicago police are just lying. Take a look.
This police department did in 2016 openly, through their union, support Donald Trump. And a lot of this case has been focused on the MAGA statements. So to have a police department that hasn't been as cooperative as they have been this round, do not openly give information, do openly lie and mishold information in cases, and then to know that they are have openly supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election, a lot of activists on the ground are saying, wait, what's going on here? Who do we believe out of these two suspect people?
Now, of course, most in the media mob, the hate Trump media mob, are coming to grips with the Smollett story the only way they know how. Blame Trump some more. Everything's Trump's fault. The dog bites, the bee stings. If you're feeling sad, it's Trump's fault. Yep. Incredibly, the hate Trump media mob has now officially lost any sense of reality in a complete state of hate Trump psychosis. Take a look.
There are a lot of evidence of violent incidents that happen at these MAGA rallies, and I just don't want to have Jussie Smollett distract from that.
Obviously, we're not going to put what happened on Trump, but what we can put on Trump clearly is the heightened panic and angst.
Today, folks that believed Jussie as a default position, we feel sadness today. We don't feel stupid today. I feel bad for the people who did not default to that empathy, who think that this is a game, who are gloating today. Those people have something fundamentally wrong with them.
Are you listening to this? This hate Trump media mob loses it when President Trump calls them out for fake news, which they are. But what they're doing is even worse. They continually rush to judgment. It's always guilt by accusation, but only if you're a Republican or a conservative. Pushing blatantly false stories, conspiracy theories, impugning the character of millions of Americans, now even teenagers, that may wear a MAGA hat. Why? To push their favorite narrative every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day, every week, month, year. Trump's evil. His supporters are evil. And they are morally superior. This is why fake victimhood is on the rise. Now, attention-seeking Trump haters know that they will garner sympathy almost immediately and fame from the media because it advances their narrative, all while impugning the character of Trump supporters in the process. So in the era of Trump, we see hoax after hoax after hoax. Very little reporting on it. Remember racist graffiti on a building at Eastern Michigan University, staged by a former student. A woman in New York saying that, oh, a group of pro-Trump teens vandalized her car while yelling Trump 2016. Turned out she vandalized her own car. Homophobic slurs spray painted on the side of an Indiana church by the church organ player. Look at the side of your screen. Fake hate crimes are far too common in this country. And time again, this media mob and Democrats, if it fits their agenda, they buy these stories hook, line, sinker, constantly rushing to judgment. And by the way, they hold up each eventual hoax as a shining example of why Trump supporters are horrible people. And remember, we're the smelly Walmart people, the irredeemable deplorables. We cling to our God, Bibles, guns, and religion. And in doing so, they ruin the reputation and in some cases the lives of very good, honorable, decent people. And when the truth is revealed, crickets. They just move on to the next fake news story. No apologies, no accountability, no mea culpa, no nothing. This is what happened in the case of Richard Jewell. Remember, I thought it was so bad in 1996. The media mob there accused him of being the Olympic bomber. Why? Because he lived with his mother. I was on the air at the time. Richard was listening. I said, that's the most idiotic theory I've ever heard. Turns out he was a hero. But watch this.
You've got Jay Leno referring to Richard as Unidoofus. The New York Post referring to him as a Rambo. The Atlanta Journal and Constitution calling him everything from a villain to a person seeking the limelight, an overzealous fool.
Everybody in the world thinks that he bombed the park because of the way he's been portrayed in the media.
If they could fool me, someone who's supposed to be educated and experienced in being fair and objective and reaching solid conclusions, if they could fool me, then boy, they fooled a lot of people.
And as bad as it was then, it is so much worse with the media mob today. That attorney you saw is Lin Wood. He found some justice, thankfully, for his client through the civil court system. But Jewell has since passed away at a really young age. I believe, and so does Lin Wood, that the stress of all of that helped contribute to his heart condition. And what the media put him through was pure hell. Lin Wood now representing Covington High School student Nicholas Sandmann, who was the latest victim, a 16-year-old kid now, of the mob's politically motivated anti-Trump rush to judgment. This mob, their attacks on Nicholas Sandmann were so insane, many even on fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and elsewhere actually started to talk about the racist scourge of red Make America hats. Okay, a hat that says make this country great again is a trigger? What's next? Not guilty of a crime? Maybe somebody suffering from hate Trump derangement syndrome? Watch this.
It has become an invitation for confrontation. Some have even referred to the hat as a modern-day version of the Confederate battle flag.
The hat in some ways represents, for many of us, a kind of racial animus.
The MAGA hat carries a certain connotation that provokes a conditioned reaction from many people, especially for marginalized people.
Just think about the symbol of that red hat. When I see the Make America Great Again hat now, Chris, I am triggered.
A red Make America Great Again hat caused me to do these things. And all these hate Trump media blaming a fake hate crime on a hat. Actually, hate crimes are going totally unreported. Where was the media hysteria over attacks where Trump supporters were punched, kicked, assaulted, harassed, stalked, all because of their political beliefs? Don Lemon, have you ever covered that? Robin Roberts? Anyone else in the hate Trump media? You talk about the rise in the far left hatred or obsess about the physical attacks on people merely wearing a red MAGA hat? Why? How many of these people support Black Lives Matter? What do we want? Dead cops. What do we want them now? Pigs in a blanket. Fry them like bacon. It doesn't fit their narrative. Those people don't seem to matter. They want to impugn the character of millions of Americans that support the president, that like the success in our economy, that like the 5.3 million new jobs. We'll have a lot more on this coming up. But first, a quick update on our Hannity watch of Mueller's witch hunt. The probe is reportedly now in its final stages. There were earlier reports this week that it would wrap up and the report would be delivered to the DOJ next week. But according to a great new article from Kimberly Strassel, look at this. Democrats are anticipating a huge letdown with no collusion literally written on the wall at this point. Conspiracy theorist, House Intel Committee chair, biggest liar in Congress, and I can prove it, Adam Schiff, he's plotting his backup plan. I'm sure the media will follow suit, and it's something that we have warned about for months. That means nonstop, never-ending, endless, frivolous, expensive, pointless investigations on the same topic, and President Trump and his family and anybody associated with him. They know they'll find nothing, but it gives Democrats a venue to continue what has been 2 years of never-ending smear and slander and innuendo and conspiracy theories and character assassination of Donald Trump and anybody that likes him. Gives Schiff an excuse to do his favorite activity, lie to you, we the people. All right, joining us now, we have a lot to get to tonight. The author of the book, The Case Against the Democratic House Impeaching Trump, Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz, and also Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. You know, Geraldo, you were so passionate last night and you reminded me of the police superintendent. I said last night, I thought that was the best news conference I watched in my career. He was so good in describing the impact when people lie.
First of all, I'm honored to be on with two of my best friends, you and Professor Dershowitz. It's an honor. I thought that the police superintendent in Chicago, Eddie Johnson, saved the reputation of the city, the sane voice to the partisans on both sides in this troubling issue. I think we cannot lose sight of what this is. This is a cynical, selfish, exploitive young man who shamed the history of true victims of race crimes in this country by his cavalier staging of this event. It reminds me a lot of O.J. Simpson, not as serious because no one died, but the mountain of evidence against him and the bizarre nature of the partisans who are continuing to support him in the face of this mountain of evidence is similar. There's no logic to it. It's infuriating. Smollett is going to get his just desserts. I think that people will abandon him eventually, but it is pretty clear from the evidence as we know it that this man sought to exploit the racial tensions in this country for his own financial gain. It's disgusting. It's low down and dirty. I don't think his career... What I would do were I him is just go to a tropical island, chill out for a couple of years, then come back and crawl on your belly and apologize to the American people.
He's now got to be tried, and there might be a federal aspect to this coming not long after. Professor, I'm very consistent. The evidence now mounting and mounting and mounting, and the videos and everything associated with it. What are your thoughts?
Well, the hard left is perfectly willing to demand the presumption of innocence, as they should, for Smollett. But they weren't prepared to give a presumption of innocence to the non-existent MAGA hat-wearing assailants. They immediately assumed the story was true, immediately convicted these people in the court of public opinion. And so what we see is the presumption of innocence, like so many other aspects of our life, is selectively employed by the left against the right, sometimes by the right against the left. We have to have a presumption of innocence on both sides, and you in your monologue set that out correctly. You said we have to assume Smollett to be innocent, but look at the evidence. It is certainly mounting. Now, I believe strongly, because I've been a victim myself of this, when somebody deliberately frames somebody and deliberately makes up a false report of anything, that person must go to jail. The integrity of the system demands that deliberate false reporters, not if you made an act, not if you made a mistake, an honest mistake, but deliberate false reporters must go to jail. The Bible says that if you testify falsely against somebody, you get the penalty that that person would have gotten
one of the
had
Big
he
Ten,
been
Professor.
guilty. And if you apply that here, you would see that this guy should get the penalty that the assailants would have gotten if they were real and existed.
But what is really
I really am worried, though, Professor, and I don't want to hold it away. There really are racist, vile, vicious racists in this country. There are horrible people that would hurt innocent people because of their sexual orientation. There are, look at a congresswoman that is a virulent anti-Semite that sits on a foreign affairs committee still. Now, that's unacceptable to me, Professor.
Unbelievable. It's not acceptable. Not acceptable to me. And, you know, when you hear somebody say that the MAGA hat is a trigger, that is such a phony excuse. For some people, the Star of David is a trigger. For some people, the cross is a trigger. For some people, seeing a gay couple together or an interracial couple is a trigger.
Mind your own business.
We don't accept people who are racist based on triggers that they don't like. That's just wrong.
And what is unforgivable is all of the smart people who are blind to the evidence because it fits their political narrative to think that the original fake story was true. They hate Trump so much that they're seeking to justify even this absolutely impossible story.
All right, amazing commentary from both of you.
And today it's used against them. Tomorrow it could be used against you.
True. You're right, 100%. Very well said, both of you. Thank you. All right, when we come back, we are not done holding what is now the fake news media mob accountable. When we come back, we're going to play you how they covered the Smollett case before and after the evidence started coming out. Some cases, crickets. Also, the brilliant Victor Davis Hanson joins us with powerful commentary and so much more straight ahead. And a dishonest and reckless disaster. Fox News has a new report out today showing that MSNBC, the conspiracy TV cable, quote, news network, decided not to cover the Smollett story as soon as they realized it was a hoax. But before the Smollett event was exposed as the hoax, well, the mainstream media and NBC, they were giddy to report it as facts. No checking at all. And, of course, all in a rush to blame President Trump and his supporters. Take a look.
Certainly, there are many indications of a hate crime here. They are looking for two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats.
It's coming from the President of the United States. He's dog whistling every day. He's separating and dividing.
Connect the dots. This is what happens. If you are in a position of power and you hate people and you want to cause suffering to them.
My initial reaction was sadness. Yeah. I wasn't shocked.
Now, however, since authorities have declared the incident a hoax and have now been putting out evidence minute by minute almost, well, the media is singing a very different tune. But, of course, it's still a hate Trump madness tune. Take a look.
This is a Jackie Robinson against homophobia in the black community, an icon, a beloved icon, and now you have the fall of an icon.
There is an atmosphere, as I said last week, and it remains true today, an atmosphere of menace and fear.
MAGA supporters have painted themselves as that. I mean, when you look at footage, when you hear things they say, this is the honest to goodness truth, and we have to be bold enough to call that out.
But in the court of public opinion,
it matters.
It matters, and he lost that because of how, and not his fault, maybe people were, I don't know what they were saying to him, how maybe because of his representatives, who knows.
All right, joining us now with reaction host of Relatable podcast, Allie Beth Stuckey, and nationally syndicated radio talk show host with the Salem Radio Network, my friend Larry Elder. Larry, let's, look at these other headlines. Smollett apologizes to Empire cast and crew, maintains he's innocent. Smollett's Empire roll cut out. Maxine Waters not ready to believe what the police in Chicago are saying. Oh, my favorite, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. A guest says Chicago PD may be framing Jussie Smollett. Framing him. What do you think?
Let's start, Sean, with MSNBC. I've got two things to say about MSNBC. Al Sharpton. This is a guy who made his bones by falsely accusing a white Dutchess County Assistant DA, Stephen Pagonis, of raping Tawana Brawley. In the grand jury testimony, one of Sharpton's cohorts testified that they knew from the beginning it was a lie. A security guard for the lawyers and for Sharpton testified that they all joked, they all knew that it was a lie from the very beginning. It's outrageous this guy's even a public figure. So what is MSNBC going to say about this fraud when they have a fraud sitting right there pontificating
we
and got to show
we're
every
sorry,
week?
we rushed to judgment, we were wrong, we apologize to our viewers? Maybe start there?
Yeah, at the very least, they should be doing that.
At the very least. All right, let me go to Allie Beth.
Right.
You know, the history, Larry knows this history, and I watched it all, but Reverend Al's still a power broker, but the bigger part is, it's bigger than that. The media, this is the media again and again and again. Covington, you know, the media gets it wrong. Ferguson, they get it wrong.
Right.
Cambridge Police, they get it wrong. In Baltimore, they get it wrong. They don't vet Obama. They don't tell 8 years later how bad he did. They're obsessed and with a compulsion that's bordering on psychotic to hate this president and even the Russia collusion lies they tell every day.
Right. Well, you just heard why in that montage. They're so insulated by their own self-righteousness that they're not able to see reality. They're not able to judge things rightly. They don't even understand the problem or what they did in the beginning, whether it was Covington or this, assuming that white people who wear red hats, the red hats in particular, are in the wrong, no matter what the facts are. They're so quick to check their boxes of intersectionality to say these people who support Trump are bad. Of course, they're going to do this. That they're unwilling to take a step back and say, okay, what is actually true? It's the AOC standard that she has set for the left that the media have really been following for a long time on the left, which is it's okay if you're not factually correct as long as you're morally right. And that's what we see them doubling down on today and in the past couple of days, saying, okay, we might not have gotten the facts right, but at least we're morally right. Here's the bigger picture. Trump supporters are still bad. And that's what makes me sad.
Yeah, you know, Larry, I like Don Lemon. I met him personally. We disagree politically, but he said that Smollett is going to make me eat. I'm going to be eating Smollett's lunch. Now he's saying, if you're guilty, confess, throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Doesn't sound like I'm going to be eating any lunch anytime soon.
No, and Sean, there was a host of People TV who said, I was praying and hoping this day would never come, meaning the day that that Jussie Smollett is exposed as a fraud. So she would rather believe that there are two Trump-supporting goons patrolling the streets of Chicago, armed with bleach and nooses, looking for gay and black guys to beat up because they don't like Trump. She would rather believe that than to believe this guy lied. That's sick. It really is.
Yeah. Last word, Allie. It really. And dangerous, and the public consumes this garbage. And you know what? You know, this is such a disservice to the American people, and they get away with it time after time, although their credibility's shot. Allie Beth.
Absolutely. And, you know, we hear from the left. I heard on CNN today about empathy, that we should be feeling empathy for him. Well, I'm feeling empathy for victims of actual crimes that are now not going to be believed. They're not going to be seen as quite as credible because now we not only have to be skeptical about the facts that are presented to us at the very beginning, but we also have to wonder about people's motives. Are people so inclined to be a victim, to become virtuous, that they're willing to make something up like this? So the empathy that I feel isn't necessarily towards Smollett, who obviously has a lot of issues, but towards the people who aren't going to be taken seriously, even though they deserve to be.
All right, thank you both. All right, when we come back, really shocking video. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez defending the vile comments made against President Trump. Also, we have a mini monologue straight ahead, and the brilliant Victor Davis Hanson, the coup that never was, and so much more. Straight ahead. Now, while President Trump continues to deliver victory after victory on the economy, near record low unemployment, especially for demographic groups in this country that have not gotten the chances that they deserve. That means record low unemployment, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment. Look at this, rising wage growth. Democrats like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez remain defiant. They continue to push what are their radical visions for America's future that will guarantee poverty. Higher taxes, maybe as high as 70%. mandated climate shaming and apparently even telling you what to eat. Not making it up. Take a look.
Listen, we got to address factory farming. Maybe we shouldn't be eating a hamburger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, let's keep it real.
Slow down.
But we have to take a look at everything, and what we need to realize is that climate change is about every choice that we make in our lives. If you make more than $10 million in 1 year, your $10 millionth and $1 gets taxed at 70%. And it really comes down to the question of, isn't 10 million enough? Like, when does it stop?
Yeah, when it's too much money,
right?
too much.
Like,
Ever noticed how generous Democrats, the new extreme radical Democratic socialists are? They're so generous with your money. How much, by the way, they want to control your life? Well, I'll give the Congresswoman credit. She actually comes out and says how radical she really is and has a lot of supporters, even openly now, almost 100 congressmen and senators. Now, she wants to tell you what to eat, mandate how much money you're allowed to make before she takes more of it. Of course, she wants a 70% top marginal rate. And of course, Ocasio-Cortez is just one of several new radicals making up this new extreme Democratic Socialist Party. Don't forget about Michigan Congresswoman Tlaib, who recently called to, quote, impeach the MFer, Trump, just hours after being sworn into office. Take a look.
When your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach them.
They recently got together with Congresswoman Omar and downplayed the whole thing and are actually embracing their unhinged extremism. Go team.
Rashida got into a little bit of trouble for saying a boo-boo word.
Oh, basically a word we say every 5 minutes on our show.
I sent her a text and I was like, don't worry about it. Like this, I mean, who cares?
No, it's honestly, that's saying that guy.
Yeah.
Like the double standard in that is that guy never gets in trouble for all of the boo-boo words he
That's
uses.
right.
Is there a lot of double standards around here?
We have a beef with almost everyone here because there's a lack of courage.
Right.
And it seems like we're all radical because we deeply care about the people that we represent.
There's a lot here they don't get. Sure, the vulgarity is what it is and pretty outrageous, but it was the reckless way they talk about impeachment, which is obviously serious, a specific process of which there is no basis for. And remember, as crazy as the over-the-top as this behavior is with these new lawmakers, they have real influence. They are part of this hard left turn among 2020 Democrats, totally out of balance and out of touch with everyday Americans. For example, Elizabeth Warren is now saying that her, quote, wealth tax. Now, that means a new tax after you already paid your taxes. If you manage to save money, well, it's just a big down payment on the Green New Deal and free child care. Don't forget about Champagne socialist Bernie Sanders, who has now agreed to sign a pledge affirming he will run as a Democrat. Why shouldn't he? He's the one that first pushed these radical extreme ideas, free health care, free college, huge entitlements, that now the party's just embracing his socialist utopia. By the way, he might be a moderate compared to some of the other candidates. Look at this video from 1985, where he offers praise for the Castro regime. And let me remind you, Castro was a murdering thug dictator who stole people's land and literally created more poverty than you've ever seen. Take a look.
I recall way back in, 1961, they invaded Cuba. And everybody was totally convinced that Castro was the worst guy in the world. All the Cuban people were going to rise up in rebellion against Fidel Castro. They had forgot that he educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society. Not to say that Fidel Castro or Cuba are perfect. They are certainly not. But just because Ronald Reagan dislikes these people does not mean to say that the people in their own nations feel the same way.
Looks like a former 60s hippie turned professor. I'm going to give you a litany and then I'm going to let you go. We're going to redo every home in America, eliminate cars, the combustion engine, planes, and 70% tax, then a wealth tax if you save a few cents after it, and guaranteed job with a guaranteed wage, family medical leave, guaranteed vacations, guaranteed retirement, guaranteed college, guaranteed healthy government food, guaranteed housing, guaranteed health care, but not private. You can't have that. And even if you're unwilling to work. Okay. You are one of the greatest thinking conservative minds in the country. What does this lead to?
Well, you know, in history, it's kind of frightening because we get these left-wing revolutionary cycles in antiquity, 18th century France, 19th century Europe, where people become entirely, you use the word unhinged from reality. And so each revolutionary position within 24 hours or a week becomes passé. So Bernie Sanders, remember, Sean, he was edgy when he used the word socialist. Now socialist is not radical enough. That green agenda of Al Gore seems passé compared to the new Green Deal. We were, not too long ago, we were talking about how much of a wall we should build, and there was an opposition between Democrats and Republicans, and then it was whether you needed a wall. Now Beto wants to tear down the wall. And you mentioned the tax. We went from Obama 39, and then we went to 70, and then 90, and then a wealth tax. And so no radical position can be radical enough within the next iteration, and that's what this Democratic stampede over the cliff is in now. And the question is why, you know, Sean, what prompted it?
So New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, all these heavily regulated, high-tax states, they're losing massive amounts of their population. Less than a decade, they lost 1 million people in California. And I view that as a preview of coming attractions, because if they do what they're saying they want to do to the country, like Andrew Cuomo is a $2.3 billion shortfall because he taxed the rich, taxed the rich, taxed the rich, and the rich are leaving. Will they leave the country?
Yeah, well, what I said, I used that metaphor before, Pied Piper stampeding people over the cliff, because the logical trajectory is oblivion or nihilism. Because finally you get so radical that you're so detached from reality that you can't have reality. And I kind of blame Barack Obama because he put a happy face on, you didn't build that, now is not the time to profit. At some point you made enough money, the 1%. And then after him it became